Hello everyone and welcome to our final InDesign and Digital Design Lab video. I'm going to try and make this one super fast, super brief. My thought is that since you guys might not be actually printing these, or maybe you will, I'm not really sure about the situation, it's just good for you guys to know all the steps and the process and to have something to refer back to if you ever need it. Today we're basically just going to be wrapping everything up, talking about exporting out and how to print. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over to our book document. So obviously I haven't finished this book. It looks pretty familiar and pretty much the same as last time we opened this, but hopefully yours is done by now. Also in Illustrator, I have my book cover document over here, and we already walked through this in an earlier lesson, so I'm not going to go over it again here. This has the same printing method as the postcards, and you guys should already be pretty familiar with that. Just remember that you'll adjust the spine after you have measured the spine of your book. So once you've finished up your design and you're ready for print, the first thing you're going to do is go down here and make sure that there are no errors. Obviously here we do have an error, so I'm going to double click and we're going to go over here and see what exactly we did. So here it's just an overset text frame, so despite the fact that our design does not call for it, we're just going to do this for ease. Just make sure that all your pre-flight is checked and that you don't have any errors like overset text or missing links. After that, you might want to do the more tedious task of going through and making sure that you have no spelling errors or misaligned images or anything like that. These smaller details often disappear when you're actually flying through proofreading, so it's good to always have either another person's set of eyes on it or to just take your time and really go through it. When everything is ready to go, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to hit save. Always make sure you save, and then you can go to File, and then package. So when you package, you're basically creating a package that's ready for either printing or sending off to another person or exporting or anything like that. So the first thing up here is fonts, and you'll see that there are 7 fonts used, so it lists everything that you've used in it, nothing's missing or embedded or anything like that, and there are 2 that are protected. The 2 fonts that are protected are from Adobe Fonts. So if you use any Typekit / Adobe fonts, you'll have to make sure that you're either printing on a computer that has Adobe Fonts and you have access to download those fonts, or you create outlines for all the text that is in that font. So to do that, I'm just going to hit cancel real quick and go to... this isn't the Adobe Fonts font, but let's just do it on this. What you'll do is select the text, go to Type, and then create outlines. So when we do this, this will do the same thing that it does in Illustrator, where everything will just be turned into vector instead of actual editable type. Okay, going back to package. So the next thing will be links and images. Here it says 5 links found, 0 modified, 0 blah, 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 blah. So this is all good. I know there's a little error thing here, but it's just making sure that you know that everything is here and this is what's going on. I would recommend you to always take a look and make sure that there's nothing missing here, because if there is, it won't print. Everything else here is pretty good. No need to worry about it. You can always file through here. This will actually tell you all the fonts that you've used. And so here, Abolition Oblique is protected and Forma over here is also protected. But the status is they're both activated, which means that we are using Typekit with them, and that's totally fine. So that's all good. Next is links and images. The same thing here. You can always take a look and make sure that everything is good here. Colors and inks, you don't really need to worry about this. Print settings, you don't need to worry about this. And external plugins, no need to worry. Okay, so now that everything here is good, we're going to go ahead and hit package. I thought I saved this. Okay. Oh, I guess we made that change with the type. So here we are in our LA Contrast book folder that we've created for this project. This is going to create a new folder within it, so you can always change the name of it depending on what you want it to be. So for example, I'm going to rename this right now to LA Contrast Book Final. And I know this is a curse because putting final usually means that it's not the actual final, but because of the fact that this is for a demo, I'm going to take the risk. So down here, there's a bunch of different settings, and depending on the project that you do, you'll need different ones. I usually keep these 3 checked, and usually just like the first 5 are just the way that they are preset. You want to make sure that you copy fonts so then everything still shows up. Same with link graphics. You want to make sure that all your images stay inside. And I just keep this one checked just in case you make any updates in the future. I wouldn't worry about these right now, so I would just keep them unchecked, but it wouldn't really make a difference if you check them or not, for this project at least. So down here, include IDML and PDF. This will depend on each of your projects. So I usually include an IDML just in case, and we talked about this before. An IDML is used if you're using a version of InDesign that is older than the version that you have. So especially if you're sending this off to a client, I would make sure to include this. And then selecting to keep a PDF would be sort of like the same thing. If, for example, you guys are just presenting with your computers, and you guys are just showing PDFs, this is a great way. Just make sure you have the PDF. You can also select different PDF presets. So depending on what you need, they have all these different types. I usually keep both of these checked no matter what the project I'm doing, just because in the case something goes wrong, you have 3 different versions. You have the InDesign file, you have the IDML file, and you have the PDF. So if you're handing this off to another printer, likely they will be able to use at least one of those versions to print. So I'm just going to hit package now. And this just goes through and consolidates everything. So now going to our Finder window, you'll see that our package folder is right here, LA contrast _book _final, and everything is here. So in our document fonts, we have all the font files for the non-Typekit fonts. We have our IDML, our InDesign file, and our PDF file, and all of our links are here, and these are all of our images that we used inside of our file. Usually at CalArts, you would take this folder, put it on a USB or something, or drop it in your drive, and bring it over to the Color Lab to print, but I'm not sure exactly what process you guys will have, so we're just going to ignore whatever you guys don't actually have to end up doing. So going back to our InDesign, let's just say that we can print using a computer using the InDesign file. So what we're going to do, if we can print through InDesign, which is always the best option if you have it, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to File and we're going to go to Print Booklet. So print booklet is different from regular print. If you're ever actually printing a real book, I would always go for print booklet. If you're printing out drafts and stuff, print works totally fine. So you'll see that there's a bunch of different settings here, just like every print dialog. I'm actually going to first go to the preview over here on the side, and this will actually show you what things will look like when you print. So you'll notice right now, there is quite a big error. So we're going to fix this while we work on things. But first, we're going to talk about this booklet type. So the booklet type will help you make the book you want to make. So for the type of book that we are making, which is a French fold, we're going to use 2 up consecutive. So I'm going to go back to our preview. And now you'll see that the first 2 pages are 1 and 2. Then it goes to 3 and 4, 5 and 6, and on and on and on. Like we talked about before, when we fold these pages, the place that you fold will go on the outside of the book and the loose ends over here will be in the spine. So I hope you can visualize this, but basically each of these pages will be folded together and then they'll be all bound on these outside edges. Obviously there is a really big error here, so let's go to print settings real quick. So here you can do more in-depth print settings. So for example, changing the printer, creating copies, this kind of thing. I would always recommend you hit print blank pages if you are not filling up all of your pages, because it will skip it if it's not there. Here in setup, we're going to hit this orientation over here to turn it horizontally and actually fit on the page. You're also going to want to go to paper size, and I don't have this size because my printer doesn't actually work for this, but normally you would want to print on tabloid, which is 11 by 17, so you would select that paper. If you guys are printing this at home and you can only print letter size, just select letter and it'll cut off a little bit on the edges, but it's really not that big of a deal. Make sure that you guys turn on crop marks because you're going to need it if you guys are using tabloid size paper. And once again, you always have your bleed. You want to make sure that's on so then when you crop, you guys can get a clean cut. All of this stuff I wouldn't worry too much about, so don't worry about it. And then we're going to hit OK. Okay, so you can see that there's a little bit of an error because I can't select tabloid paper. I'm going to try and make this a little bit better by putting this centered. So now you can see that the design actually fits perfectly on this piece of paper, but we're not getting any of the trim marks on it. So if we had a larger piece of paper, this wouldn't be a problem. But everything else looks fine, so we're just going to go ahead and do this. One clue that things aren't going right if you're doing a French fold is that the first page, like the first sheet of paper that you're printing, only has half of the design. You want to make sure that the whole page has it, which means that your actual French fold is correct. After that, the last thing is just a summary, and I wouldn't worry about that, and you can go ahead and hit print. Next, you would also do the same thing printing in Illustrator to get that cover done. Of course, I would always recommend you bind your actual book first and then go ahead and do the cover. Here in Setup, by the way, there are a few other ways you can print stuff. For example, Saddle Stitch will allow you to create books that are sort of like zines. So as you can tell, the first page is here and the last page is here now. So basically each of these pages would stack the way that like a magazine does, and then you would staple the spine. This way you would have to print double-sided though, so just keep that in mind. The same thing goes for the other ones. They have a few different other versions depending on the type of book that you're making. At CalArts, I think I only really use 2-up consecutive and Saddle Stitch, so likely those will be the ones that you need to use the most. But make sure that you hit this when you print or else it won't work for a French fold. Okay, I'm going to hit cancel, but you would go ahead and hit print. This is basically it for our last demo. I know this has been a really short one, and I hope this will just let you guys off to do whatever you guys still need to do to finish up your books. I'm sure that they all look really awesome, and I hope you guys are excited about what you guys have designed. It's also almost the end of your first semester at CalArts, so I hope you guys had a really good time. If you guys have any additional questions about exporting and finishing up this project, make sure you ask Shelly or your TAs. With that all said, it's been a joy making these videos for you guys this semester, and I hope you guys at least weren't totally annoyed by them and maybe learned a few things out of them. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. I hope you guys have a great winter break and the rest of your semester. I look forward to hearing about you guys and hearing about the projects you guys make in the future. So with that, this is our final goodbye. Goodbye!